Somebody actually sold Americans a defibrillator that looked real, sounded real, and did absolutely nothing when your heart stopped. That's not a prop, that's a real product people bought during a panic. And it gets worse. A flare gun built to save your life that fires sideways instead of up. A barricade so unbreakable, it locked the homeowner inside their own house. And a riot umbrella that dissolved the second tear gas touched it. 51 of these existed. They were legally sold, and somehow nobody stopped it. Stay to the end, because number 35 is the one that'll make you say, there's no way this was real. And if your jaw's already on the ground, hit subscribe before things get dumber. 1. Americans gripped by Cold War nuclear fear believed a $400 bunker could save their family from total destruction. What actually arrived on their lawn was nothing more than a repainted garden shed with a flimsy padlock. Door-to-door salesmen promised missile-proof protection, while thin wooden panels could barely survive a strong wind gust. Terrified families handed over their savings, fully convinced they had purchased safety. In reality, they had bought an overpriced tool shed, dressed up in survival paint, offering about as much protection as a cardboard box during a hurricane. 2. During a wave of gas attack, panic companies rushed home protection masks onto shelves, claiming every household needed one immediately. There was one hilarious catch nobody bothered to mention in the advertisements. The mask only sealed properly on a completely bald, smooth face, which meant mustaches, beards, and even light stubble instantly ruined the seal. Grown men stood shaving frantically at midnight, terrified of poison gas and looking absolutely ridiculous doing it. Survival apparently depended less on chemistry and more on how recently a man had visited his razor, proving fear can make people believe anything works. 3. Solar-powered flashlights sounded like the perfect eco-friendly survival gadget for panicked Americans stockpiling gear before predicted blackouts. The marketing promised reliable light whenever the grid failed and painted a picture of glowing safety through any crisis. The catch was almost comedic once people got it home and tried it out for themselves. The device needed a brutal 14 hours of direct sunlight just to produce a measly 20 minutes of dim light afterward. Families discovered their expensive Doomsday flashlight worked worse than a candle and required more patience than most disasters actually allow. 4. Doomsday seed vaults became a booming trend among preppers convinced society was collapsing and farming would soon be humanity's only hope. Companies sold locked metal vaults stuffed with seeds promising future gardens sprouting from ashes and ruin. The problem showed up before customers even opened the box, waiting on their porch. Many of these seeds were already expired before shipping even began, sitting in warehouses far too long before reaching buyers. Preppers ended up guarding a locked box of dead seeds, protecting nothing but their own gullibility from an apocalypse that never even arrived. 5. Fire safety fears convinced anxious homeowners that a special fire blanket could smother flames instantly and save their entire house from disaster. Advertisements showed calm actors casually draping the blanket over flames, like everyday superheroes handling chaos. Reality turned out far messier and much more dangerous than anyone expected during actual testing. Instead of smothering fire, the blanket itself caught flame almost immediately upon contact with heat. Panicked buyers realized they had purchased a fire starter disguised as a fire stopper, turning their emergency tool into the actual emergency itself. 6. Survival helmets flooded the market, promising unbreakable protection for anyone facing riots, collapse, or general chaos in uncertain times. Bold advertisements claimed the helmet was impact-proof and tough enough to withstand serious blows without a scratch. Skeptical buyers decided to test this bold claim, using nothing more dangerous than an ordinary kitchen spoon. The helmet cracked instantly under the gentlest tap imaginable, proving the packaging was tougher than the actual product. Americans had paid premium prices for head protection that could barely survive a light breakfast utensil. 7. As Y2K panic swept across America, people scrambled for anything promising protection from an imagined digital meltdown wiping out civilization. Companies capitalized fast, selling a so-called meltdown shield blanket, claiming to guard against radiation and technological collapse. Curious buyers who examined their purchase closely found something far less impressive than advertised. The blanket was simply aluminum foil wrapped inside slightly fancier cardboard packaging with a scary-sounding label attached. Panicked Americans essentially paid premium prices for kitchen foil repackaged as high-tech doomsday protection against a disaster that never came. 8. Survivalist boots marketed themselves as rugged waterproof gear, built for wilderness chaos, flooding, and any unpredictable disaster scenario imaginable. Advertisements showed adventurers striding confidently through rivers and storms without a single drop touching their feet. Buyers eager for reliable gear quickly discovered a much soggier truth the very first time they wore them outside. The boots soaked through completely during the very first ordinary puddle encountered on a regular sidewalk. Customers realized their expensive waterproof boots handled water about as well as a sponge handles dryness. 9. Clean water panic drove desperate Americans toward a $900 filtration straw, promising safe drinking water from any source imaginable. Marketing painted dramatic scenes of survivors, sipping confidently from rivers, lakes, and puddles, without a single worry. Reality arrived quickly, and disappointingly, the very first time someone actually tried using the expensive device. The straw completely clogged after just one single sip of regular tap water, straight from a kitchen faucet. Buyers ended up paying luxury prices for a straw that couldn't even handle water safer than most bottled brands. 10. Panic room trends exploded as anxious homeowners searched for affordable ways to protect their families during break-ins or emergencies. Companies introduced an inflatable panic room promising instant protection that could be set up within minutes inside any household. Excited buyers quickly learned their inflatable fortress had one glaring weakness nobody mentioned during the sales pitch. The entire structure popped instantly if a person simply leaned against the wall with any noticeable pressure. Families discovered their expensive safety bunker offered less protection than an actual bounce house at a birthday party. 11. Panic buying trends hit toilet paper hardest as anxious shoppers feared total shortages during nationwide emergencies and lockdown scares. Companies quickly capitalized, selling a 12-month survival bundle marketed as smart emergency preparation for responsible households everywhere. Buyers who stacked these bundles high in their garages soon realized something rather embarrassing about their purchase decision. The bundle was simply regular toilet paper repackaged with a dramatic survival label slapped onto ordinary grocery store rolls. Americans ended up paying inflated prices for the exact same product sitting quietly on nearby store shelves. 12. Home defense fears convinced nervous Americans that ordinary-sounding gadgets could somehow protect them against dangerous home intruders breaking inside. Companies marketed a simple whistle as a self-defense sonic weapon, capable of stopping attackers through sound alone. Buyers who researched further discovered the terrifying sonic weapon was essentially identical to a referee whistle from gym class. There was no special frequency, no shocking blast, just a regular whistle sound anyone could produce easily. Homeowners had paid premium prices for playground equipment rebranded as cutting-edge home protection technology. 13. Zombie apocalypse fever swept through pop culture, convincing thrill-seeking Americans they needed serious weapons for hypothetical undead encounters ahead. Companies sold a specialized crossbow claiming powerful piercing capability, perfect for surviving any zombie outbreak scenario imaginable on television. Curious buyers decided to test this supposedly deadly weapon using nothing more threatening than an ordinary cardboard box. The crossbow bolt bounced off harmlessly, failing to pierce through even the flimsiest cardboard packaging material available. Zombie hunters realized their fearsome weapon couldn't handle a box, let alone an actual apocalypse scenario. 14. Fireproof safes promised terrified homeowners guaranteed protection for important documents and valuables during house fires or sudden emergencies nationwide. Advertisements boasted incredible heat resistance, claiming these safes could withstand extreme temperatures during even the most devastating fire imaginable. Skeptical buyers tested this bold claim, using something surprisingly simple sitting right there in their own kitchen drawer. The safe melted at roughly the same temperature as a single lit birthday candle flame nearby. Customers discovered their expensive fireproof safe couldn't even survive a basic dessert celebration without failing completely. 15. Radiation fears during various nuclear scares convinced anxious homeowners that special paint could somehow shield their entire house from fallout. Companies marketed a radiation-proof wall paint additive, claiming scientific breakthrough protection against dangerous radioactive particles seeping through walls. Curious buyers who investigated further discovered the shocking truth hidden behind the intimidating scientific-sounding label attached. It was simply ordinary paint with zero special properties beyond a frightening name designed purely for marketing purposes. Homeowners painted their walls with regular paint while believing they had built an actual radiation shield. 16. Survivalist multi-tools flooded the market, boasting an impressive 87 different functions, perfect for handling absolutely any emergency situation imaginable. Advertisements showed confident adventurers effortlessly using every single tool, while conquering wilderness challenges and unpredictable disaster scenarios with total ease. Buyers who actually tested these tools quickly discovered a disappointing pattern, repeating across nearly every single function included. Almost none of the 87 tools worked properly, with blades bending, screwdrivers slipping, and attachments falling apart constantly. Americans essentially purchased 87 ways to be disappointed, packed into one single overpriced gadget. 17. Apocalypse preppers convinced themselves comfort food would matter just as much as survival skills once society eventually collapsed completely. Companies marketed freeze-dried ice cream as the ultimate post-collapse comfort food, perfect for surviving emotionally devastating end-time scenarios. Buyers who actually tried this futuristic treat discovered something far less enjoyable than the exciting packaging promised them enthusiastically. The texture resembled chalky styrofoam more than actual ice cream, leaving a strange, lingering aftertaste nobody enjoyed. Preppers realized surviving the apocalypse might genuinely feel more bearable without this particular comfort food included. 18. Carjacking fears spiked anxiety among American drivers, desperate for reliable ways to protect their vehicles from increasingly bold criminals nationwide. Companies sold an anti-carjacking steering wheel lock, promising serious deterrent protection, tough enough to stop even determined thieves completely. Curious buyers decided to test this supposedly unbreakable device, using nothing more intimidating than an ordinary butter knife found nearby. The lock sliced apart embarrassingly fast, proving criminals wouldn't even need proper tools to defeat it. Drivers realized their expensive security device offered less resistance than spreading butter onto morning toast. 19. Nuclear fallout fears drove desperate preppers toward increasingly creative homemade shelter solutions built entirely from whatever materials happened available nearby. One popular trend involved constructing a fallout tent using pool noodles as support poles, combined with ordinary tarp material stretched loosely overhead. Buyers proudly displayed these makeshift shelters, believing they had engineered genuine protection against radioactive fallout raining down outside. Reality suggested otherwise, since pool noodles provided roughly zero structural protection against anything beyond light rain or gentle wind. Preppers had built a pool party setup while believing they created a nuclear bunker. 20. Camping emergencies inspired companies to market instant campfire solutions, promising effortless flame creation during unpredictable outdoor survival situations everywhere across America. Advertisements showed a simple can producing instant roaring fire within seconds, requiring zero effort or traditional fire-building skills whatsoever. Buyers who opened their purchase discovered something rather unimpressive, hiding beneath the exciting instant campfire branding plastered across packaging. The can simply contained ordinary charcoal briquettes glued together, requiring the exact same lighting effort as regular charcoal always needed. Campers essentially paid premium prices for charcoal wearing a fancy costume. 21. Air pollution fears convinced anxious Americans they needed constant monitoring devices attached to their keychains to track dangerous air quality changes nearby. Companies marketed a personal air quality monitor keychain, promising real-time readings capable of warning users about hazardous conditions before serious harm occurred. Buyers who tested this device across wildfire smoke-heavy traffic and factory zones noticed something strange happening consistently every single time. The display stubbornly showed good air quality, regardless of actual conditions surrounding the confused owner outside. Americans carried an expensive keychain, incapable of detecting anything beyond flattering lies about breathable air. 22. Rising crime fears convinced budget-conscious Americans they needed affordable body armor without paying expensive prices charged by legitimate protective gear companies nationwide. Sellers marketed a bulletproof vest constructed from repurposed yoga mat foam, claiming surprising strength, capable of stopping serious threats during dangerous encounters. Buyers who researched further discovered something deeply concerning hidden behind the confident bulletproof marketing language used throughout advertisements. Yoga mat foam offered essentially zero ballistic protection, functioning more like cushioning for stretching exercises than actual armor. Customers had purchased exercise equipment disguised as life-saving protective gear. 23. Communication blackout fears convinced preppers they needed reliable backup radios capable of receiving emergency broadcasts during major disasters or grid failures nationwide. Companies marketed a survivalist hand-crank radio promising crystal-clear reception through hand-powered energy requiring zero batteries or electrical outlets whatsoever. Buyers who actually tested this device during real-world conditions discovered something frustrating happening across nearly every channel they attempted tuning into. The radio only picked up static, combined with one single distant AM station, broadcasting mostly commercials. Preppers cranked endlessly for information while receiving mostly noise and advertisements instead. 24. Wilderness fears convinced hikers and campers they needed proper medical kits ready for dangerous snake encounters during outdoor adventures across rural America. Companies marketed an emergency snakebite kit including suction devices and instructions, promising life-saving treatment during frightening venomous snakebite emergencies. Medical professionals who reviewed these kits discovered something alarming buried within the confident instructions, printed clearly across included packaging materials. The recommended treatment methods had actually been banned by real doctors for potentially worsening injuries rather than helping victims recover. Buyers carried dangerous misinformation disguised as life-saving emergency medical equipment. 25. Rising crime fears during civil unrest convinced anxious homeowners they needed visible deterrents, capable of scaring away potential looters approaching their property. Companies marketed an anti-looter fake security camera featuring a realistic-looking shell, complete with a convincing blinking light, designed purely for intimidation purposes. Buyers who researched further discovered something rather embarrassing hidden behind the confident security marketing language used throughout advertisements everywhere. The device contained no actual camera components, functioning as nothing more than plastic housing with a battery-powered light inside. Homeowners protected their property using elaborate plastic decorations instead. 26. Meteor shower panic convinced paranoid preppers they needed physical protection capable of shielding their homes from potential falling space debris during rare astronomical events. Companies marketed a home meteor shield tarp, promising serious protective capability against dangerous objects falling unexpectedly from the sky above unsuspecting households. Buyers who tested this tarp during ordinary weather conditions discovered something disappointing happening almost immediately after light rain began falling steadily outside. The material failed completely under gentle rainfall, proving it couldn't handle basic weather, let alone actual meteors. Preppers realized their cosmic protection couldn't survive an average Tuesday afternoon shower. 27. Emergency preparedness trends convinced worried parents they needed properly stocked bugout bags, ready for sudden evacuation during unexpected disasters, striking their communities suddenly. Companies sold pre-packed bags advertised as complete emergency solutions, containing everything families supposedly needed during genuine survival situations, requiring immediate action. Parents who actually opened these bags during safety checks discovered something concerning replacing the medical supplies they genuinely expected inside packaging. The bags were stuffed mostly with glow sticks instead of bandages, medication, or any legitimate first aid equipment whatsoever. Families realized their survival bag prepared them mainly for a rave. 28. Wireless technology fears convinced anxious Americans that invisible signals were somehow harming their health during widespread network upgrades happening across major cities nationwide. Companies marketed an anti-5G beanie hat, claiming special fabric technology capable of blocking dangerous wireless signals from penetrating through fabric directly. Buyers who researched the materials discovered something rather amusing hidden behind the confident scientific-sounding marketing language used throughout product descriptions everywhere. The beanie was constructed from completely ordinary wool, possessing zero special signal-blocking properties beyond keeping heads warm during winter. Customers paid premium prices for regular winter accessories. 29. Cold weather emergencies convinced preppers they needed reliable heat sources, ready for sudden power outages during harsh winter storms, threatening households across colder regions nationwide. Companies sold chemical hand warmers in bulk packaging, promising extended-lasting warmth, capable of keeping hands comfortable throughout lengthy emergency situations, requiring patience outdoors. Buyers who opened their bulk purchase discovered something frustrating happening almost immediately after breaking the seal on individual warmer packets. The warmers turned ice cold within mere seconds of opening, rather than providing the promised extended heating experience advertised confidently. Preppers stockpiled warmers that failed instantly when needed most. 30. Missing person fears convinced worried families they needed reliable identification methods capable of quickly connecting rescuers with important medical information during genuine emergencies happening unexpectedly. Companies marketed an emergency QR code identification bracelet, promising instant access to vital medical details simply by scanning the code using any smartphone nearby. Buyers who tested this device during safety demonstrations discovered something troubling happening consistently every single time someone attempted scanning the advertised bracelet. The QR code linked directly to a broken dead web page that had stopped functioning long before bracelets reached customers. Families wore useless links instead of genuine emergency protection. 31. Blackout fears convinced desperate preppers they needed reliable backup power capable of keeping their homes running during extended grid failures, threatening communities nationwide during major disasters. Companies sold a Doomsday generator, promising uninterrupted electricity throughout lengthy emergencies, requiring dependable fuel sources, readily available to average households everywhere. Buyers who actually needed their generator during real emergencies discovered something frustrating happening almost immediately once they searched their garage for fuel supplies. The generator ran exclusively on gasoline, which most panicked buyers never actually stockpiled beforehand despite owning the expensive equipment. Preppers owned generators powered by fuel nobody bothered saving. 32. Medical emergency fears convinced anxious preppers they needed serious life-saving equipment ready for sudden cardiac emergencies during collapse scenarios happening far from proper hospital care. Companies marketed a survivalist mini defibrillator claiming genuine life-saving capability, small enough to fit inside any emergency bag or vehicle glove box conveniently. Buyers who examined their purchase closely after unboxing discovered something deeply alarming hidden behind the confident life-saving marketing language used throughout product packaging materials. The device was completely non-functional, serving purely as a plastic prop, incapable of delivering any actual medical treatment whatsoever. Preppers carried false hope disguised as emergency equipment. 33. Personal safety fears convinced everyday Americans they needed discreet self-defense tools, capable of handling dangerous situations, without appearing threatening during normal daily activities everywhere. Companies marketed a tactical pen advertised as powerful enough to break car windows during emergencies, while doubling as a legitimate self-defense weapon against attackers. Buyers who tested this bold claim during actual emergency simulations discovered something disappointing happening almost immediately upon striking the advertised glass surface repeatedly. The pen shattered completely, instead of breaking through the window leaving frustrated owners holding broken plastic fragments uselessly. Customers realized their tactical pen couldn't handle basic tactics. 34. Wildfire smoke fears convinced anxious residents they needed reliable protective gear, capable of filtering dangerous particles during increasingly severe fire seasons, affecting entire regions across America yearly. Companies marketed a face shield claiming genuine smoke-blocking capability, designed specifically for protecting families breathing during hazardous air quality conditions, surrounding their neighborhoods repeatedly. Buyers who examined this protective gear closely discovered something concerning hidden behind the confident safety marketing language used throughout advertisements promising genuine respiratory protection. The shield consisted of nothing more than thin plastic wrap offering essentially zero filtration against dangerous smoke particles floating everywhere. Families breathed smoke through flimsy plastic. 35. Hurricane preparedness trends convinced coastal homeowners they needed reliable window protection, capable of preventing shattered glass during powerful storms, threatening their properties repeatedly throughout dangerous hurricane seasons annually. Companies marketed an anti-hurricane window film promising serious structural reinforcement strong enough to withstand intense wind pressure during genuine hurricane force conditions, battering coastal communities. Homeowners who tested this product during ordinary weather discovered something troubling happening almost immediately once moderate wind conditions arrived unexpectedly outside their windows. The film peeled off completely during light wind, proving it couldn't handle breezy afternoons, let alone actual hurricanes. Homeowners realized their protection failed instantly. 36. Food security fears convinced desperate preppers they needed reliable methods for catching fish during extended survival situations, requiring sustainable food sources away from grocery stores completely. Companies marketed a survival fishing kit, advertised as complete equipment capable of catching substantial fish, necessary for feeding hungry families during genuine emergency situations lasting indefinitely. Buyers who examined the included hooks closely after opening their purchase discovered something disappointing regarding the actual size and strength of equipment included inside packaging. The hooks were far too small for catching anything substantial beyond tiny goldfish incapable of feeding anyone properly. Preppers prepared for goldfish hunting instead. 37. Hygiene fears during health scares convinced anxious Americans they needed portable sanitizing technology, capable of instantly eliminating dangerous germs from surfaces during public outings everywhere nationwide. Companies marketed a portable ultraviolet sanitizing wand, claiming powerful germ-killing capability, perfect for disinfecting doorknobs, shopping carts, and various public surfaces touched frequently by strangers. Buyers who tested this device during actual daily use discovered something frustrating happening almost immediately after activating their expensive new sanitizing gadget confidently. The batteries died within a single minute, proving nearly useless for genuine ongoing sanitizing needs throughout busy days. Customers sanitized briefly before losing power completely. 38. Apocalypse preppers convinced themselves caffeine would remain essential, even after society collapsed completely, requiring reliable coffee alternatives capable of surviving extended storage without refrigeration anywhere. Companies marketed freeze-dried survival coffee, promising convenient preparation simply by adding water during difficult emergency situations, lacking normal kitchen equipment or electricity nationwide. Buyers who actually rehydrated their purchase during taste tests discovered something unpleasant happening immediately after mixing the powder according to package instructions carefully. The mixture rehydrated into an inedible brick, lacking any resemblance to actual drinkable coffee most people recognized easily. Preppers stockpiled bricks instead of beverages. 39. Shortage panic during various emergencies convinced anxious shoppers they needed massive quantities of bottled water, stockpiled immediately before supplies supposedly disappeared completely from local stores everywhere nationwide. Retailers capitalized quickly, selling entire pallets of bottled water at drastically inflated prices, reaching nearly 900% markup during peak panic buying moments, happening suddenly. Shoppers who compared prices later realized something infuriating regarding the actual value received compared to normal everyday pricing available just days earlier before panic began. Customers had paid luxury prices for the exact same water sitting quietly on shelves before hysteria struck. Panic created profit from ordinary tap water, essentially. 40. Evacuation planning convinced worried families they needed reliable equipment, capable of transporting belongings quickly during emergencies, requiring immediate relocation away from dangerous areas, suddenly threatening neighborhoods. Companies marketed a collapsible wheelbarrow evacuation cart, promising convenient folding storage, combined with sturdy transportation capability, perfect for carrying supplies during genuine emergency evacuation situations, happening unexpectedly. Buyers who actually attempted using this cart during practice runs discovered something embarrassing happening almost immediately once weight was placed inside the collapsible frame structure. The cart collapsed completely mid-use, proving it couldn't handle basic loads, let alone genuine evacuation emergencies. Families evacuated using broken equipment instead. 41. Food security fears convinced desperate preppers they needed meals that could survive years in storage without spoiling. Companies marketed emergency dehydrated meals, promising real flavor and proper nutrition, just by adding hot water. It sounded perfect for any lasting crisis requiring simple preparation. Buyers who finally tasted these meals during real testing found something unpleasant almost immediately. The meals tasted like cardboard soaked in salt, nothing close to appetizing food anyone actually wanted. Preppers realized they had stockpiled punishment disguised as dinner, proving survival food and good food rarely mean the same thing. 42. Urban wildlife encounters convinced anxious city dwellers they needed real protection from increasingly bold animals wandering suburban streets. Companies marketed bite-proof gloves specifically built for these encounters, promising durable protection against raccoons, coyotes, and other unpredictable creatures. The advertising sounded tough and reassuring for nervous homeowners everywhere. Buyers who tested these gloves during actual encounters found something alarming almost instantly. The gloves tore apart the moment teeth made contact with the material. Customers realized their expensive protection failed exactly when it mattered most, leaving hands exposed to the very danger they paid to avoid. 43. Wilderness navigation fears convinced hikers and preppers they needed reliable tools for guiding them through unfamiliar terrain without modern technology. Companies marketed a survival compass, promising accurate readings perfect for finding true north during real emergencies far from civilization. It seemed like a simple, essential tool for staying safe. Buyers who tested it outdoors noticed something troubling whenever metal objects sat nearby. The compass pointed toward the nearest magnet instead of true north. Hikers who trusted this device found themselves walking confidently in exactly the wrong direction, proving cheap tools make expensive mistakes. 44. Civil unrest fears convinced anxious protesters they needed protection from tear gas during increasingly tense demonstrations across major cities. Companies marketed a riot-proof umbrella advertised as tear gas resistant, offering genuine protection against dangerous chemical irritants during chaotic situations. The idea sounded clever and practical for worried crowds downtown. Buyers who tested this umbrella during actual exposure found something alarming almost immediately after contact. The umbrella dissolved completely the moment chemical spray touched its surface. Protesters holding disintegrating fabric overhead learned the hard way that marketing promises rarely survive real conditions. 45. Home invasion fears convinced anxious homeowners they needed barricade equipment strong enough to stop intruders from forcing entry overnight. Companies marketed a home barricade door brace, promising serious reinforcement capable of withstanding forceful break-in attempts during genuine emergencies. It felt like smart protection for worried families everywhere. Homeowners who installed this device discovered something ironic during a later emergency requiring quick escape. The brace locked so effectively, it trapped the homeowner inside their own house. Families had secured themselves into greater danger, proving too much protection can become its own disaster. 46. Fire safety fears convinced apartment dwellers they needed reliable escape equipment for safely descending from upper floors during dangerous emergencies. Companies marketed a fire escape ladder, promising sturdy construction strong enough to support adult weight during real descent situations. It sounded like essential safety equipment for high-rise living. Buyers who tested this ladder during safety demonstrations found something terrifying almost immediately after weight was applied. The ladder snapped completely under a single person's weight during testing. Residents who trusted this equipment realized it would have failed them during an actual fire emergency. 47. Suffocation fears during collapse scenarios convinced desperate preppers they needed backup oxygen sources for extended emergencies involving contaminated air supplies. Companies marketed canned air advertised as breathable oxygen reserves, promising genuine life-sustaining capability during dire situations lacking normal atmosphere. It seemed like smart insurance against disaster. Buyers who researched the actual contents discovered something concerning about what these expensive canisters truly contained inside. The cans held nothing more than ordinary compressed air, offering no real emergency benefit whatsoever. Preppers had paid premium prices for regular air, proving panic makes excellent customers. 48. Rescue signaling fears convinced stranded hikers they needed visual tools for attracting rescuers during emergencies across remote distances outdoors. Companies marketed an emergency signal mirror, advertised as powerful enough to reflect sunlight visible from remarkable distances during genuine rescue situations. It sounded like a life-saving essential for any serious hiker. Buyers who examined this mirror closely after unboxing found something disappointing about its actual size and quality. The mirror was so small and scratched, it became useless for producing any meaningful signal. Hikers carried damaged scrap metal instead of a real rescue tool. 49. Wilderness survival fears convinced eager campers they needed educational tools, teaching essential outdoor skills during genuine emergency situations, requiring quick reference. Companies marketed survival playing cards printed with detailed wilderness tips, promising portable education combined with entertainment during long camping trips. It seemed clever and genuinely useful for outdoor enthusiasts. Buyers who used these cards outdoors found something frustrating after minimal exposure to moisture or regular handling. The ink smudged illegible after just a single use in normal conditions. Campers held blank cards instead of the guidance they had actually paid for. 50. Emergency signaling fears convinced boaters and campers they needed visual distress tools for alerting rescuers during dangerous situations across considerable distances. Companies marketed an emergency flare gun, promising reliable vertical launch capability, strong enough to send visible signals high into the sky. It sounded like dependable equipment worth every dollar. Buyers who tested this device during emergency simulations found something alarming the moment the trigger was pulled outdoors. The flare fired sideways instead of upward, creating danger rather than an actual rescue signal. Owners nearly injured themselves while desperately trying to call for help. 51. Doomsday anxiety convinced worried preppers they needed financial protection, covering potential losses during genuine catastrophic events threatening their homes unexpectedly. Insurance companies marketed a specialized Doomsday prepper insurance policy, promising comprehensive coverage during extreme emergencies, requiring financial assistance after devastating losses. It sounded like the ultimate safety net for anxious buyers. Policyholders who actually filed claims after real disasters discovered something infuriating, buried deep within the fine print of their policy. The coverage excluded nearly every situation imaginable, protecting nothing when it truly mattered. Preppers had paid years of premiums protecting absolutely nothing at all. And there it is, 51 certified disasters of human panic, proving that fear apparently makes people buy melting safes, sideways flares, and umbrellas that dissolve on contact, because nothing says smart shopping like a bulletproof vest made of yoga mats. Somewhere out there, an inventor is still convinced pool noodles could survive a nuclear meltdown, and honestly, that energy deserves its own trophy. If your brain just short-circuited from secondhand embarrassment, smash that like button before your own common sense catches up to you. Hit subscribe, because Dumb Historical Inventions has an entire vault of chaos waiting. And drop a comment right now telling us which invention made you yell out loud, because we need to know exactly how dumb humanity has really been.